This correspondent, thank you very much. And we'll be hearing from NHS Employers a little later on Afternoon Live to see what they make of that decision. Right, let's talk now to our correspondent Sarah Ransom, who's in Torquay in Devon for us now. Afternoon to you, Sarah. It looks a rather nice day down there. You're going to try and get some opinion and reaction on the southwest coast.
Yes, that's right, I am. It is a little bit blowy here and the rain has now gone through. But yes, I am here in Torquay. This was an area that voted very strongly to leave back in 2016. And this is an area too that relies on some of those hospitality workers that your previous guest was talking about, and also relies very heavily on the care sector for migrant workers. There's a very an elderly demographic in the area too. So to try and gauge some sort of reaction from people living and working in this part of the world, I've been joined here on the seafront by Danny Dowd. Now Danny, just listening to some of the stuff that's been coming out of Westminster today, what's your take on it all?
Well, obviously around here there's a lot of tourist work, and I work in the building sector myself, and a lot of the Eastern Europeans come over and take what I would class as the British jobs and send the money out of the UK economy. So, you know, I think what a lot of other people may also think as well.
Which is?
Let them go, really.
Really? You'd like to see them go because in your line of work, is it proving a problem?
Not as much as a problem, but I do see a lot of the European workers over here, and you know that could be given to the British workers, especially ones that are currently not employed on benefits as well, and I think it would really help our country right out.
Danny, thank you. Next to you is Pam walking. Now, Pam, I stopped you walking on the seafront here. You were having a constitutional. What are your thoughts about what's coming out this afternoon?
I really feel that at the beginning of Brexit, everyone was voting to come out of the European for the immigrant side of things. And I think now that they're trying to bring this in to pacify what everyone's thinking, oh my God, we voted to come out because of the immigration situation, but now they're deciding to bring it in to try and pacify the people that are.
And how does that sit with you?
I think the same things with all politics. You're told one thing and another thing happens, and I just feel that it's very sad that it's come to this situation that they're just trying to swap their minds all the time to suit people so that they stay in power.
Well, John Walker, standing next to you, you were telling me earlier that your daughter lives in Australia.
That's right,
and
yes.
You've fallen foul of their immigration
yes.
side of things. So what are your views this afternoon then?
Well, as I say, Australia's got it right because they got the right system. Don't let people into their country unless they can offer something to the country, and we've just let people in. And they've come over and settled over here, and a lot of the people have taken British jobs and British homes, and a drain on our National Health Service as well.
Some people would say those jobs were open to everybody, that British workers could have gone for them if they'd really wanted to.
Yes, but that's not. Most employers will go for the people that will accept cheaper wages and a cheaper cost of living. So you think what's
coming out of Westminster this afternoon might work?
I don't know, really. It's about time that England stood up for the English. You know, the whole thing, the vote was that people were annoyed about all the immigrants coming over and taking jobs, homes, and the drain on the NHS service. So I think that, you know, it's about time that we actually done something about it and not just talked about it all the time.
John Walker, thank you very much. Thank you to everybody else who stopped on this really cold afternoon here in Torquay. Plenty of discussion and debate here. There'll be more, of course, in Westminster.
Sarah Ransom there in God's own county. Thanks very much. Right, let's get the thoughts of Danny Mortimer now. Danny's Chief Executive of NHS Employers, which acts on behalf of NHS Trusts in England and Wales. Danny in BBC Yorkshire studio in Leeds. Danny, thanks very much for being with us this afternoon. What do you make of these proposals, and what impact do you think they may have on the health service?
I think the first thing I'd like to do actually is just respond to some of the comments you've had from the seafront there in Torquay. I mean, I think the most important thing to stress is that what we see in the NHS is that actually people who come from abroad make a vital contribution to the delivery of care in our services. They're not a drain on our services. They're absolutely essential to delivering care to John and people right across this country. I think in terms of the proposals that have been made, we welcome the fact that the government has said they're up for consultation. Our response will be very much like the rest of the economy, very much like the rest of other representative organisations, the CBI and so on. The idea that you can equate salary with skill is disappointing, and frankly I think will be of concern to the vast majority of our staff, who are hugely skilled, hugely valued in terms of the care they provide in our communities, but who earn much less than the £30,000 figure that has been discussed of late.
Which raises the question, it's important. I saw actually that quote on a news release you put out where you said the government continues to confuse high pay with high skill and high value. That's more a reflection on employers, isn't it? If these are skills that we value, and if they are important skills, then we should be paying them more.
Well, of course, for my members, for the employees that work in our sector, the 1.4 million employees that work for us, their pay is set by the government. And in common with charities, with social care, with vast other parts of the public sector, actually we don't pay, at least initially in people's careers, salaries above £30,000, but they are hugely important, hugely skilled roles.
What about the argument that the Home Secretary also used in his statement this afternoon? Look, there will be exemptions opportunities. There will be a particular time when there's a shortage, I don't know, of dental technicians or of radiographers. We will make exception, and you will be able to recruit outside of the UK and bring in people from wherever in the world.
And I think it's fair to say that that's what the government have done this year to make sure there are sufficient work permits available for doctors in particular. And we really welcome that. But that actually took us 6 months to achieve. That was a hard-fought process to convince the government to add doctors and nurses, to remove doctors and nurses from the migration cab. What we want to see is a system that does that in a much more straightforward manner, that doesn't have as a starting point salary as a measure of worth to the economy, that recognises that there are roles, particularly in healthcare, but in social care and other sectors as well, that actually are really crucial to the health and wealth of this nation, that are about keeping people fit and in work, that are about caring for people's families and their elders and parents and grandparents in particular. And actually, if we can't recruit people to do that, if our colleagues in social care can't bring in people to staff the nursing homes and the care homes and the domiciliary services, that will have a detrimental impact on the economy as a whole.
Danny Mortimer, Chief Executive of NHS Employers in our Leeds studio. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You are watching Afternoon Live with me, Sean Lay. These are our headlines this hour. The Labour leader Jeremy Corbyn has denied calling Theresa May a stupid woman during Prime Minister's questions. As we've just been hearing, the government sets out its immigration policy for the UK after Brexit. What matters most, ministers